Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi y'all, this is Jerry Williams, aka TV Jerry. On February 6th, the Virginia Production Alliance will host its annual State of the Industry event at Hardywood Craft Brewery. Anybody who's working in the industry or just wants to find out more is welcome to attend. I'll have a link to register on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
And I can see into the cafe, I see Leo sitting with his back to the door. I see an older man who I recognize, I think, as his father. And then I see one of his managers. And I start to walk towards him and I get stopped. And they're like, "Sorry, sir, no shorts allowed in the cafe."
That was Adam Tex Davis talking about going to meet Leonardo DiCaprio to talk about a script he'd written, but being stopped by the fancy hotel's dress code. Tex has had a successful career writing comedy for movies and TV shows. He's got great stories to share about working on projects with DiCaprio, Ryan Reynolds, Jimmy Fallon, Harvey Weinstein, and more. He'll also talk about his new podcast with famed personality Bruce Vilanch called The Oscars, What Were They Thinking?
Sifter Review of the Week.
SNL 50, Beyond Saturday Night, on Peacock. This is not to be confused with the recent film about the first night of Saturday Night Live, which also just dropped on Netflix. This one features 4 one-hour documentaries covering different aspects of the show's 50 years. The first one may be the best. It covers the audition process with clips and interviews. The only downside is that it primarily features newer cast members. The second revolves around the writing process, which is a fascinating whirlwind process. Third only covers the cowbell sketch with Christopher Walken. I didn't remember it and didn't realize it had become an iconic moment, so it was informative at best, and I didn't find the sketch funny. Finally, the focus is on the 11th season, when Lorne Michaels returned to the show with an all-new, unexperienced cast. The history surrounding that season and the 12th season was new to me and proved pivotal in the show's development. Overall, numerous cast members, producers, and writers are featured, with entertaining stories. If you're a fan of the show, this may prove enjoyable. Or you could just pick one installment that interests you because they don't depend on each other for understanding. I gave SNL 50 Beyond Saturday Night Live 3 out of 5 stars. First, I got to ask you, Adam Tex Davis. Do we call you Adam or we call you Tex?
You can call me either, man. This is the story I tell. It started in film school. I wrote a script. There was a character, Tex, in it. I thought Tex was a really cool name. I wanted to play that character, so I put my name on the script as Adam Tex Davis so that the people reading it would kind of get a sense that maybe I would be the guy. And you got to understand, film school is super competitive. So there's like 30 people in the class, but only like 8 movies are going to get made.
Yeah.
And you're paying a shit ton of money to be at film school. Like the last thing you want is to be in the class and your movie doesn't get made.
Right.
What I did was I kept the Tex going afterwards because as the internet came around and Google and all that, you Google search Adam Davis, 5,000 people show up.
Right.
There's a guy in prison, I think, that pops up, one of the first Adam Davises. There's a baseball player. There's my idiot cousin. You know what? You Google search Adam Tex Davis, it's me.
There you go. Well, try it with Jerry Williams.
Yeah, exactly. So
There are a few dozen of those. So you're not from Texas or anything like that. You just thought it was a cool name.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up, I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in Jersey, so.
And where'd you go to film school?
NYU.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And my roommate went on to become one of the biggest directors in Hollywood.
Who is that?
He did a movie called The Hangover and another movie called Joker.
Footnote.
His roommate was Todd Phillips, and as he said, he's best known for the Hangover movies and the 2 Joker films.
Actually, my student film was me and Todd, and I played Tex, and he played a character named Weasel.
And you still in touch with him?
Yeah, it's been a little while, but yeah, we could easily be in touch.
As you know, this podcast usually has a Virginia connection, and you have kind of an interesting one. Tell us how that came about, how you got down to Virginia.
I have a company called Atomic Entertainment, and my partner, another Jerry, Jerry Colber, and we did a show for National Geographic Channel called Brain Games, and we did about 5 seasons of that. We got an Emmy nomination.
Footnote.
Brain Games was a science TV series that started in 2013 and set a record for the highest premiere rating of any National Geographic series.
So we started our company based on Brain Games. And as Brain Games was coming to its end, we're trying to think of what's the next thing to do. And so we thought, a lot of kids watched Brain Games, even though it was a show for adults on National Geographic Channel. We knew a lot of kids were watching. So we had this idea percolating of a Brain Games for kids. Well, our agent calls us up and says, "You're not going to believe this, But a guy just walked into our office and says, "Hey, I watched this show called Brain Games with my kid Rocket, and I want to do a kids version." And that man was Mr. Pharrell Williams.
Right.
We hit it off. He was amazing. I mean, he just sat us down. He goes, "I think you guys are geniuses, and I just want to support that. So you tell me what I got to do." And of course, when you have a genius like Pharrell telling you you're a genius,
Sure.
it makes you pretty happy.
Yeah.
And I even got him to like do it on video to make sure that like somebody could actually see it.
Of
We did a
course.
little video for my daughter. Anyway, so we did a show called Brainchild that was on Netflix. And we had a great experience working with him and Mimi Valdez, his creative director. And so when Pharrell was launching his Something in the Water festival in Virginia, they called us and they said, "We can't think of any guys that we would rather have come and document the making of the first year of our festival."
Footnote.
Something in the Water Festival was created by Virginia Beach native Pharrell Williams in 2019.
We were down in Virginia Beach for months or so, documenting the show, behind the scenes. It was very important to them that the city be a central character. So we met people whose lives were going to be affected positively by the festival, but also the kids and then how it tied into the College Beach Week. Yeah, it was a beautiful thing.
So that documentary was called Hydration. I can't find it anymore. It was on Mubi, but apparently it's kind of disappeared for now.
Yeah, it's kind of dehydration at this point. I will say,
Okay, there you go.
I will say, it's one of those things like it was made as a labor of love and everything. And in some considerations, it wasn't maybe made the most commercially. They really stressed the artistic and they stressed the people, less about the big artists and more about like the local people. So when it came time to sell the movie, Netflix was interested, but not as interested as they could have been. So there was a little bit of a squabble, I guess, over the money. And they decided, you know what, we're going to keep the movie and we're not going to make the changes you want. And so it's something that they put out every now and then. They have screenings and stuff, but they own it.
Okay. Now, I know you said you're writing screenplays forever. What was your first big break as a screenwriter?
I had an amazing month and a half where
And then it's been downhill from then, right?
Kinda, yeah. Look, working in the film business, working in the TV business, maybe less or so in the podcast business, but there's incredible highs and incredible lows. But for me, I mean, I had written a script that was based on a stupid thing that happened where I wound up on spring break in Cancun with my parents. And I was a year out of school. Yeah. I was a year out of school and my parents had a timeshare and they were like, "Hey, do you want to go?" And your girlfriend and my brother and his girlfriend, we were all going to go. But then my girlfriend couldn't get off from work. My brother couldn't get off from work. And my parents were like, "You still want to go?" And I was like, "Why not? It's a free trip to Mexico." So we show up and it's like, "Welcome spring breakers" in the airport. And our entire hotel was just besieged with crazy kids doing all kinds of stuff. I got a notebook and I'm like, I'm just going to write down every stupid thing that happens and I'm going to manipulate things. I'm going to get my mom in a foam party at Senor Frog's. I'm going to have my dad is in the hot tub smoking weed with the frat boys. Like, it was great. So I wrote this script called Sunburned and we went out with it as a teen sex comedy and nobody bought it. They were like, "Oh, teen sex comedies aren't really in vogue. We're not doing those anymore." And I started thinking, like, when else was I really bummed? Oh, yeah, when I was in the friend zone with this girl for 2 years that I was in love with and couldn't get anywhere with. So I started writing the movie Just Friends.
Footnote.
Just Friends was released in 2005, starring Ryan Reynolds and Amy Smart.
And just as I'm finishing Just Friends, I get a call from MTV. And they said, "Hey, we read your spring break script. We can't do it because it's a hard R, but we have a spring break idea that you might be perfect for." So I pitched them my take on their idea.
And that became Spring Break Lawyer.
It became Spring Break Lawyer, right. I mean, the woman, that was her pitch. She was like, "I got 3 words for you, Spring Break Lawyer." And I go, "I have 3 words. I'm out of here." And then I turned around and I was like, "Look, I got $300 in the bank. I work in a bagel store. I'll write Spring Break Lawyer." I go, "This is what I would do with it." And I literally just vomited out my idea. And she goes, "I love that. You're hired." So right there, I got hired to write Spring Break Lawyer. Then I get a call. "You're not going to believe this, but Harvey Weinstein read your Sunburned, your Spring Break script, and he loves it. He wants to meet you, but he's going to buy that." And then 2 weeks later, New Line bought Just Friends. So in the course of like a month, maybe a month and a half, I had a cable movie writing job, and I'd sold 2 scripts. So yeah, that was the high point of my life, probably.
Well, let's talk about some of those because it's kind of interesting. Obviously, Sunburned, you just mentioned with Harvey Weinstein before all of his troubles, obviously.
Yes.
What kind of relationship did you have with him? How well did you get to know him? What did you see?
I had one meeting with him, and he is everything as advertised, but I'm not a hot girl, so he's not hitting on me. So that was the only thing missing. All the grossness, all the weirdness, that was all there. Just walking into the office and everybody's on eggshells and everybody's like giving like silent glances to each other and nervous whispers and stuff. So it's not a great working place. I go into the office and he begins to explain to me how kids hate their parents, and that the thing he wants to do with my script is he wants to take out the parents. And I'm like, it's a script about a kid who goes on spring break with his parents. If you take out the parents, it's kind of just a kid that goes on spring break.
Just another spring break movie.
Yeah, and he goes, no, let me tell you about my friend Fabrizio. And he proceeds to launches into this story about how his friend, some guy who like works, I forget what he does. He's something with race cars. He builds whatever. He has sex with everybody, and he's listing people by name that his friend has had sex with, actresses and all this stuff. He goes, but he's not even famous. He's not even Leo DiCaprio or Ben Affleck, and he's having sex with this one and that one. And I'm like, oh my God. Meanwhile, his female vice president is taking notes in the meeting. She's there. And then he's like, am I making you uncomfortable? And she's like, no, I'm good. So I'm like, this is already disgusting. So we fought back a little bit, and we were able to keep the parents as like a B story. And, I minimized the friend character who was the sex guru. Movie never got made.
Speaking of Spring Break Lawyer, that did get made, and there were some interesting stories about that, I think, weren't there?
It's funny. I got to be on set, and it was like my first like big movie being on set, and I kind of earned it. And this is like a pro tip for any writers out there. Like when they hire a director, become friends with the director. Like he's your ally. And if you do what they say and you do it well, they want you on set. They want you as part of the process. Now, not all writers want to be there,
right.
But, I was young and I was excited. So when he said, hey, do you think you could punch up this scene or two? I punched the shit out of it. And he was like, dude, you overnight, you made the script 85% funnier. He goes, I love you. Can you be on set? And I was like, absolutely. What was funny was he goes, you can do anything you want. You have complete carte blanche. You can come to me with any ideas or whatever. The only thing I ask you is don't give the actors direction. If you have a note or anything, just come to me and let me direct the actors. And I was like, of course. So there were 3 actors on the movie that were playing these like friend characters, and they fell in love with me. So every time they would do a scene, they'd come running to me afterwards, and they'd be like, how did we do? How did we do? Was it how you envisioned? Did you like it? And I was just, yeah, you guys are great. Just listen to the director. He's got you guys doing it. And I would just deflect. So one time they do a scene, and they're doing it differently. He's directing them to do it very differently than I thought. To me, it was supposed to be like quiet and subtle and under the breath sarcastic, but he was having them do it really big. And so I was going to give the director my thought, but then it was like lunchtime. So he calls cut. Okay, it's lunch. So I grab my lunch and I squirrel away. I'm sitting on an apple box, and I look up. I see a shadow on the ground, and I look up, and it's the 3 actors. Hey, Tex. What do you think? How's that scene? Is it like you thought? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm going to tell the director this, but like, I think you guys are doing it too big and loud. I'd love to get a take that's a little more subtle and subdued, but do exactly what the director says. This conversation never happened. Right. I'm going to talk to the director. So they go off. I don't get a chance to talk to the director before we start the next take, but I'm right next to him. So we're going to do one more take, big and loud, and then I'll tell him to do it quiet. And the actors do it really quiet and subtle. And I'm like, oh no. And the directors go, hey, what happened? What happened to the big energy? And they go, oh, Tex told us to do it differently. Oh,
damn.
And the director turns to me, and I just flung myself on the ground and begged for his mercy. I was like, these assholes. And I was like, you fucking guys. Like, I wanted to kill those actors. And then the other big story from that movie is I saw a ghost.
Not the movie ghost, but a real ghost.
Not the movie ghost. We were filming at a place called the Ambassador Hotel, which was a famous hotel in Los Angeles. It's where Robert Kennedy was assassinated in the kitchen by Sirhan Sirhan.
Right.
It's completely empty. They were renting it out to movie companies, but I had heard it was haunted. The last night of shooting, I decide I'm going to try to go upstairs and check out the upper floors. There's a strike of midnight. I grab a security guard and I was like, hey, I'm the writer. They asked me to go scout the top floor in case we need to shoot another scene. I was wondering if you could come with me. The elevator doors open and down the hall, standing in the hallway, staring at one of the doors at the end of the hallway, is a woman. I'm not expecting to see anybody here. I mean, I thought maybe somebody from the cast or the crew wandered off or whatever. And the security guard chief is like, hey, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. She turns from the door to face us and then continues the turn and then just disappears up and to the right.
Wow.
Like, poof. And I'm like, my heart is now pounding.
I'm sure.
Chief is running down the hallway, and I know he's going to turn and go, where'd she go? And he gets to the end of the hallway. He's like, where'd she go? And I was like, And like, there was no door. He's checking doors. They're all locked. No door opened and closed. Like she literally just disappeared.
Wow.
He didn't see it, but he knew she was there. And then he came over and I grabbed him. And I was like, look, I lied. We're not supposed to be here scouting. I heard it was haunted. I think we just both saw a ghost. And he freaks out. And now he's dragging me towards the elevator. And he's like, ah! And I'm like, you're American Indian. I thought you guys are supposed to be in touch with the spirits and stuff. And he's throws me in the elevator. And he's like, look, this never happened. We were never here. We didn't see anything. I was like, sure, that's fine with me. And I go back downstairs. I get my lunch. And my hand is trembling. And the actors are gathering. And they're like, hey, Tex, how's it going? And I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody right now.
Wow.
So I can't explain it. I've talked to scientists. I've talked to people. Everybody's trying to come up with rational explanations, and nothing is, like, oh, it could be a reflection from. I go, no, it was an interior hallway. There's no windows.
Right.
Like I don't know what it was.
So now you definitely believe in ghosts.
I believe in that ghost.
Right. It's interesting. You mentioned the Ambassador. There's a big, beautiful hotel here called the Hotel Jefferson after Thomas. For years, it was shut down completely. It was in horrible shape before they bought it and renovated it. They shot a movie called Rock and Roll Hotel, which never got distributed, and they shot My Dinner with Andre.
I was going to say, I looked up movies that were shot in Virginia, and I was shocked to find out that one of the quintessential New York movies, My Dinner with Andre, is actually Virginia. I was shocked.
Footnote.
My Dinner with Andre was a 1981 movie by Louis Malle, and it was shot here at the Hotel Jefferson. Let's move on now to Just Friends and talk about casting for that.
A lot of names got bandied about. And, this whole idea of the just friend relationship, there was talk initially, like, what if Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore? Or Adam Sandler and even, like, a Julia Roberts, like, getting really crazy. And then I'm in LA and they say, hey, we have a tape of a guy, a new guy. He just got added to the cast of Saturday Night Live. Women love this guy. He's very funny. What do you think? And they put in a tape, and it's a young Jimmy Fallon. His audition tape for SNL was actually him doing an Adam Sandler impersonation. And I was like, wow, how meta is that?
Yeah, really.
He seemed like he could be a great, a great young unknown, but like just starting out. I went back to New York, and then they were like, oh, would you like to have lunch with Jimmy Fallon? And we were able to walk the streets of New York and Times Square area. We went record shopping. We spent the day together, making each other laugh. And he was a cool dude. And, nobody was really recognizing him. And he told me like what he loved about the script. And then he told me there was some raunchy stuff that he wasn't as comfortable with. And I said, believe it or not, the studio is also equally uncomfortable with it. And it's probably all going to come out. So don't even worry about that. He's like, great. No, he was really into it.
And it did all come out, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. For the most part. I forget why. I think they just decided, he was so focused on TV and SNL and stuff. It wasn't really the time for him to break out as a movie star. So I think the studio was just wanted to get somebody who had a little bit more movie chops. And then the other name that was talked about, there was a guy who was in a big movie, big comedy. It was called The Wedding Crashers. And he played like a brother character, and they thought he might have a chance of breaking out. A guy named Bradley Cooper.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, and you know what? That would have been pretty cool too. Like they were like, well, they didn't feel he was big enough and quite ready to be the star of the.
And you didn't get to spend a day with him.
No day with Bradley.
Now, speaking of some other interesting names, I know you. One of the scripts that you started on, Gardener of Eden. Tell us about that one. There's some interesting background on that.
Yeah, so that one, you know, you talk about a high and low points of a career, right? Like sometimes the same project could be a super high and a super low point. So
Right.
I had written Just Friends, and then I had gotten hired for rewrites on a bunch of other films. You know, they were in the PG world, and it was great, and I was making money, and I was, you know, whatever. This is awesome. But I kind of wanted to get back to my darker R-rated roots a little bit and just be a little more ballsy. So I wrote this dark comedy that just kind of was like almost streamed out of me. I didn't even do an outline for it. I never do that. I never start writing without an outline. But I was like, let me just see if I can just, you know, bang this thing out. And in 2 weeks, I had a script that kind of was created as I went along, and it just poured out of me. And I use stuff like it opens with the guy working in the bagel store, and there's a tragic, crazy incident that happened in real life, and so I kept that in there, and then. You know, but it's a character, like he's a big, heavy-set dude. He gets kicked out of college, he gets kicked out of his house, he's lost everything, and he decides, I'm going to beat the shit out of the next guy I see. And he beats up a guy, and it turns out that guy has been sexually assaulting women in the neighborhood, and there's wanted posters, so they assumed he saw the guy, recognized him, and has, you know, basically done, like, you know, a service. Right. So he decides that's his calling. I'm going to become a vigilante. He's not good at it, you know, but it's like it's not done in like a, you know, it's like Chris Farley vigilante. It's like, you know, it's more real and indie. So I write this movie, I get to my agent, and he says, look, I'll be honest. He goes, I don't know if studios are going to go for this. I don't know how many producers might go for it. He goes, but I think actors that have their own like studio or want to make and produce films, I think actors will love this movie. And there's one name at the top of my list that I want to go for. And it's a big name, but fuck it, let's do it. And he sends it over to this company called Appian Way, which is run by Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right.
So Leonardo DiCaprio's like managers and the people at the company, the lower people, they all read it and they love it. So I get a call. We love it. We're going to give it to Leo. I'm like, oh shit. Then I get a call. Leo's reading your script today. Then I get a call. Leo's read the first 10 pages and he's smiling. Then it's like Leo's 25 pages in. He's laughing. He's enjoying it. Then he's halfway through and he's really liking it. And then I'm like, the ending is like the best part for me. It was like a cool twist ending. Blah. He's reading the end now. Oh my God, he wants to meet you. So then it's like, oh my God, I'm going to get to meet Leonardo DiCaprio and he might want to either be in or produce my movie. So they set up a meeting in a hotel in New York, and it's like the summertime. So I you know, I'm always running hot as it is. So I'm wearing shorts. I show up at this hotel, and I can see into the cafe, you know, where they, you know, I see Leo sitting with his back to the door. I see an older man who I recognize, I think, as his father, and then I see one of his managers, and I start to walk towards them, and I get stopped, and they're like, "Sorry, sir, no shorts allowed in the cafe."
Ah.
And I was like, dude, right there is my career is sitting right there. Please do not let 1 foot of cloth stand between me and having like the next leg of my career.
Pun intended.
Yeah. And they're like, just run. I ran to the table and I sat down next, and we had a great conversation. It was funny because I said, are you thinking about playing the lead? And he goes, well, it's a big, heavy set guy. He goes, I'm kind of wrong for it. You kind of are. As much as I'd love to have a movie with you starring in it, I was like, but you have a friend. And he goes, Ethan. I go, yes, Ethan Suplee would be perfect for this part. He goes, you don't understand. He goes, we did a table read of your script. I was like, what? He goes, me and all my Hollywood friends, like me and Tobey Maguire and this one and that one, we all read your script. And Ethan was there. And usually at the end of the table reads, they look at me and they go, Leo, this one's you. Or they look at Toby and they go, Toby, this one's you. Everybody at the table turn and go, Ethan, you're up, buddy.
Footnote.
Ethan Suplee has been in numerous movies, including Remember the Titans.
And so they had already had the same thought that, that me and my manager had. The good part was we got a director and everything was moving forward. And then Ethan Suplee actually gets hired on the TV show My Name is Earl. So he can't do the movie in the allotted time that we're going to do the movie. So now we had to recast it. And they came at me with, hey, what do you think of Lucas Haas? And I'm like, Lucas Haas is great. He was the little boy in Witness.
The only thing he's got big is those big ears. He's not a big man.
Exactly. And I said, he's not, is he going to gain 300 pounds for the part? And they're like, no, why don't we just do it the reverse? Like, he's a skinny, scrawny guy who like puts on some weight and becomes the vigilante. And I was like, well, it doesn't really work as well as the big heavyset guy, because like he's supposed to be shunned by women. Like, Lucas is cute. I mean, yes, he's quote unquote scrawny, but I don't know. And they're like, no, it'll work. And I was like, I don't think it'll work the way you're thinking it will, because if Leonardo DiCaprio says he's wrong for it, what world is Leo wrong and Lucas is right? But now I have a choice to make. And basically my agent was like, look, you could say no and the movie dies today. You can say no and they hire another writer to come on and change your movie. Or you could say, fuck it, and do it. And I was like, all right, so I have one choice. Fuck it, do it. And you know what? Lucas was great. The movie came out good. I wish we had more money.
Well, I've never heard that before when they make a movie.
Yeah, right. But, it's like, it was one of those things where I had to literally do an edit of the script just to take money out and find scenes and things that cost too much money. Like we had motorcycles at night, all gone. And look, in some cases, like it's fine to take stuff out. And in other cases, it's like, Anyway, the movie got made, and that's a high point. Working with Leo, working with this great cast. We had Giovanni Ribisi was in it. Erica Christensen was in it. Jim Parsons, an unknown pre-Big Bang. Jim Parsons, who I probably hung out with on set when he was there more than anybody else, because he was the less of note actor. Everybody else premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, offers to buy it, and the guy who put in the money was just like, didn't want to sell it. I don't know if it was like, I need to have a tax write-off. I don't know what exactly happened, but the movie never officially came out. So high point, low point. It was on Amazon Prime for a minute. I told my friends, oh, you can see it. You can see it. It played in festivals in Europe. It got pirated. I know friends have shown me like, hey, it's on a pirate site. Yeah, Garden of Eden is still one of my favorite scripts that I wrote, and it did get made, but it didn't have the life that I had chosen for it.
That was Adam Tex Davis, who's had a successful career writing comedy for movies and TV shows. Actually, that was only part one. Tex had so many great stories that he'll be back to tell us more about movies and both of his podcasts. I'll have a link to his company's website, Atomic Entertainment, on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Dog Man. This animated film about a half-dog, half-man who's also a cop pursuing the feline supervillain Petey the Cat. Companion. A group of friends takes a weekend trip to a billionaire's lakeside estate, and it turns violent. September 5th. This follows an American sports broadcasting team covering the 1972 Olympics who had to adapt to live coverage after a terrorist group killed Israeli athletes. There'll also be a pre-recorded Q&A with the cast after the screening. From Ground Zero. This is a collection of 22 short films made in Gaza featuring untold stories of living through the war.
TV and streaming.
You're cordially invited on Prime. Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon star in this comedy about two couples who find out they've booked the same venue for the same time. Tom Green Country on Prime. The popular millennial comic is now a farmer in Canada in this documentary. Vietnam, the war that changed America on Apple. The makers went through more than 1,000 hours of archival footage to create this documentary series, as well as numerous interviews. Next week is a unique double feature about two shows that address movies from the perspective of books, and they've both been on WRIR-FM. More about that next week. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sifter, including literally thousands